We're just a couple of days away from the Celebration Bowl, and we kick off our three-part Celebration Bowl preview with South Carolina State. Oh, yeah, it's locked on HBCU. Play my music.
You are Locked On HBCU, your daily podcast covering HBCU sports. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, family? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On HBCU podcast, your number one daily one-stop shop for everything HBCU athletics, Monday through Friday, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I, of course, Sam Darian Gray, a.k.a. the Mouth of the South, Texas Southern alum and former TSU Herald Sports editor and current contributing writer at USA Today's Saints Wire. Thank you for going on this journey with me. Make a Locked On HBCU your first listen of the day every day. And remember, just because the mic cuts off doesn't mean that the journey's over. It just means it's time to follow me on Twitter at South Exclusives. Starts with an S and ends with an S. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Go to FanDuel.com to make every moment more. And if you're new to FanDuel, you get $150 back in bonus bets when you put down a winning $5 bet. Go to FanDuel.com to get started. This is our three-part Celebration Bowl preview. Today, we have South Carolina State. Tomorrow, we have Jackson State. And then on Friday, we're going to be joined by another guest. We're going to be joined by another guest to do our preview of the game. Both teams, both sides, our game of the week. You know how it goes. 3, 2, 1. We'll see you on Friday. But today, I have Cobi, the host of Blitz City in South Carolina State expert. I'm on the outside looking in. I need that insight. I need that inside insight. I need that analysis that I can't get from simply watching interviews and watching games. So I brought him on, and we break down the Bulldogs as we prepare for the HBCU Super Bowl. I'm here with Cobi, the host of Blitz City and also South Carolina State expert. Now, all signs are trending towards Eric Phoenix being on the field for South Carolina State. So in recap of his season, is there anything that you've seen that you like, I didn't really expect that or this, and that was a little bit of a surprise to me?
You know what? I can honestly say no, right? Just because when we got him, I wanted him the year before when he first the portal from Benedict, but we were very loyal to Corey Field. So I'm not surprised because when I got the spring ball, he was making plays that we hadn't seen made from a quarterback in years. And I was just like, man, like I know this is gonna be. I didn't think we'd be here, but I knew like he was gonna have a great year for us. You know what I'm saying? So seeing him do this in real time, I'm not surprised. He's been doing this since spring ball. He's been making everybody, the crowd, who shows up to watch the practices, he's been making everybody go crazy, man.
And you said, did you think you'd be here? No. But I think there's a point in every season where you do kind of have that idea, where it's like, this is who we thought we were going to be coming into the season. Okay, maybe that's not quite accurate too. This year is actually special. What was the moment in which you realized South Carolina State was a legit contender for the Celebration Bowl?
Crazy enough, this is gonna sound unbelievable, right? But we were at the Georgia Southern game, and we saw how the team played against Georgia Southern. The score, the game was way closer than what the score dictated, but the way this team played versus Georgia Southern, the way the defensive line was getting to their quarterback with ease, the way E7 is out there facilitating that offense, and Caden High, you watching them two on the same page, and every time E7 takes off, Caden knows where he wants him to be. He's going off for 10 catches in the first half. We said then, like, we ain't nothing to play with. You know what I'm saying? Like, we didn't think we were a fourth place team like how they predicted. We knew we were going to be competitive, but after that game, it was like a shift, right? Didn't expect to win it. It's a money game, but the way we played, how competitive we were, how physical we were, we all left with it was kind of like a vibe that everyone felt like we're going to be fine.
And you mentioned some of those pieces that I do want to get into, but first, the fourth place. And we'll get into some of the Division II players and everything when we talk about Chennis Berry in segment 2. But fourth place is where you're projected to be. what did you feel was an accurate preseason projection? If you can take yourself back to that with where you felt like you were, where do you think South Carolina State should have been projected to finish in the MEAC?
So, all right, well, let me say this. We understood it.
Okay.
We understood why it was the way it was. We didn't necessarily agree with Howard because we had beaten Howard with a freshman running back that we relied on all season. But we understood it. They went to the Celebration Bowl. Cool. I didn't feel like Morgan State should have been ahead of us. I think they had a great defense. We all know what happened last year, that miraculous kick return that they got to escape with that win. But we just knew that we were the better team because of the amount of talent that we brought in. But we got it. You have to go by all you have to go by is last season. Coach P was no longer there. This is a whole new staff. This is great talent, but this is a new team essentially. So we understood it. We just didn't agree with it. So yeah, we would have loved for us to be, maybe like a spot higher. And that probably would have been cool, but we knew we were gonna beat at least two of those teams. Central was like, we'll see when we get there. Because of last year, right? But Morgan, we knew we should have won that, so we couldn't wait to see him. Howard, same. You know what I'm saying? We beat them last year when we weren't that good. We were very confident about Howard this year as well. So it was those two that really got us like, okay, well, we'll have an opportunity to prove what we can do. But Central was the one where we were like, we understand we're being behind them right now until we see what we can do on the field with them.
And I think the irony in that comes in the fact that once you beat Central, you were kind of undeniable. That's what I would say. I would say you flew under the radar a tad bit going into that game. The week prior, I think it was the Delaware State game.
Right.
You put up 69 points. Ain't no flying under the radar there. But then you beat Central and everything takes off. When you're looking at this team, you have Ashad Hall. You have Jaden Broughton on that defensive line. A deep unit, but it's highlighted by those two guys on the edge. Would you feel like that defensive line is the backbone of South Carolina State? It feels like that to me at times.
It is. It is. And what's crazy about it is after losing guys like Jablonski Green, Patrick Godbolt to the NFL and to graduation, and then LeJean Barber to Coastal Carolina, I felt like the defensive line was going to be a weak spot. A lot of us felt like the defensive line ain't going to be too good this year. And then these guys really, Assad Hall came out of nowhere. Jaden Broughton, man, we were excited to get him, but we were like, we don't know what he's going to do yet. You know what I'm saying? So it's one thing to get a skill position from D2. When you get a lineman, it's the game a little different when you're moving up to the FCS level. So we was going to have to wait and see with him. But nah, they have been a pleasant surprise. So yes, they are the backbone. We do rely on them heavily. They might not always make the play, right? But they make things possible even when they're not making the tackle. They make things possible for Aaron Smith to come through and clean up like he does. Or Jaden Jones. You know what I'm saying? They are the backbone of this team.
And that front line is incredible. That front line is incredible. That second unit with Jones and then also Smith. What do you think Smith's defining quality is? Because I find him to do so many things. It's almost disrespectful to narrow him down. But if you had to highlight one thing, what is that?
His sideline to sideline speed. There was like a 3-week stretch between Howard, Morgan, and Delaware State. I think Delaware State was close up on those games. Every game, it's like he flew off the screen, right? If you were watching at home, he flew off the screen. If you're watching in person, Aaron, you see him before the play, you don't see him as soon as it starts, and then you see him again. When the ball carrier gets the ball. I don't know how he does it, honestly. He just plays with reckless abandonment, man. But the fact that he's able to just fly sideline to sideline and get your ball carrier before you can get going, I think that's something that that's what makes him so special. He's quick.
And the flip to the other side of the ball, again, I'd say that the defensive line is the backbone of the team. But if we're talking about the highlight, the one that everybody wants to talk about, it's got to be that receiving core. Carter, Smith, Brown, High. What is having 3 of them? Because some guys got 1. Not every team got 1. Some guys got 1. Some got 2.
Right.
I don't know how many got 3. Y'all have 3 really talented wide receivers. How does this boost the offense knowing that at any given game, it could be Carter, It could be High. It could be Smith Brown. It could be 2 of the 3. It could be all 3.
It makes you feel a lot more comfortable. Like when you need a play on third down, okay, well, if one isn't particularly having a good game, you got 2 other guys to rely on. Caden has been the most consistent from week 1 to up until this point. But, there's been a point in the season where Caden dropped down a little bit, and then Einaj comes up because Einaj didn't have the best season in the first few weeks. I think Fort Valley, or right before Fort Valley, is when he started to hit his stride. Now he's the one making these big plays. He's the one beating secondaries over the top. And then Justin comes in the mix between that. So it's a comfort, really. Like it's a real comfort knowing that we can go to either one of these guys, even if one's not having the best game. We can go to Caden to move those chains when we need it, or we can look towards Einaj if we need a deep play, because all 3 of those guys are so fast and they just one missed tackle away from taking it to the house. So
do you look at them as specialists, or do you look at them as interchangeable?
I think you can check. I think they're interchangeable.
Yeah, I would say I feel like High gets a lot of the short ones that kind of go. Right. I feel like they all go over the top. That's one thing I feel like each one of the 3 does at a very high level.
They can, and there's plenty plays throughout the season that shows all of them doing just that. Caden has had his. Caden could have had a lot more over the top than what he did already. Like Caden should be over 1,000 yards, but he got a couple big drops this season. So yeah, no, they all can do it. They all can do it. Justin is really built for that, because I think out of all the 3, he's the best route runner. I think when you look at Einaj, he's the quickest, he's the fastest, and Caden just finds a way to get open. So yeah, I think they're all interchangeable with how they can win over the top, but they all can do that.
Now let's get to the leader of the team, Chennis Berry himself. Charismatic guy. I want to break down how he was able to achieve such high success in his first year at South Carolina State, as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel, and FanDuel is the official sports book of the Locked On Podcast Network. I understand that you're an expert in everything sports. You make smart decisions with your podcast. You might as well make smart decisions with your money. And by doing that, that means you should already be on FanDuel, but maybe you've been hesitant. It's the holiday season. Put some money down and go get a loved one something nice. By doing that, you'll get $150 back in bonus bets if you put down a winning $5 bet at FanDuel, and I trust that you'll be able to put down a winning bet because you are an expert with this. It doesn't matter if it's the NFL, doesn't matter if it's the NBA, if it's NHL, if it's any just miscellaneous sport out there. You go ahead and go put down some money on a couple of games this week, whether that's the outcome, whether that's individual players. It doesn't matter the league. Everybody got players you can put it down on. Pause. Everybody has players you can put some money on. And then you also have teams and games that you can do the same. So go to FanDuel.com. Get $150 back in bonus bets if you put down a $5 bet and it wins. Just go ahead and go to FanDuel.com to get started. As we continue rolling with today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day. For your second listen, make sure you're checking out Locked On College Football. The college football playoffs are just a week away, which is why we have our Celebration Bowl a week earlier than we typically do. And I have Cobi here to break down the South Carolina State Bulldogs. And I want to get to the leader. There was a change in leadership. I feel like you went from a great coach to a great coach. Buddy Pough to Chennis Berry. One difference is, from the outside looking in at least, they appear to be drastically different people. What are the differences in how they lead the unit?
They are drastically different. Coach Pough can get you motivated, right? But he's an old school guy. So he'll give that story, and I've got the chance to listen to both, right? He'll give you a story inside the locker room, and it's full of metaphors and lessons, and you get to the end of it and you're like, oh wow. Okay, let's go, Coach. Yeah. with Coach Berry, it's a drill sergeant style. You know what I'm saying? Like it gets your blood pumping, it gets the juices flowing. He's younger, so he can relate to the kids a little bit better now. He has all these chants, and he has the he has the chance, and he has these songs that he does and these sayings, and it seems like he always has a new saying every other week. You know what I'm saying? So that I think that's the big difference. Coach Berry is very much, he's a little bit more hands-on. You know what I'm saying? He's a little bit more focused and hands-on with everything that goes on in practice. Like Coach Pough was always kind of laid back. He'd sit back, he'll let his assistant coaches do the thing. He'll have his hands behind his back and he's just looking, right? He's just observing. And you get the feeling that, okay, whatever he's going to change, he's going to make changes when coaches, when they get back in the room and they have this meeting. Coach Berry is going to let you know right there. Like Coach Berry is walking around practice with the microphone that even you can hear him outside the stadium because he's that loud. Yeah. All right. So he's paying attention to everything. If he see you mess up, he own it quickly. He want it fixed quickly. It's just a different style. He's very concise. He doesn't like wasted time. He's like, we're gonna do this, we're gonna work on this, we're gonna work on that, we're gonna work on that, and then we're gonna get out of here with no wasted time, no wasted anything. That's how they're different. But the results, man, are about the same right now.
Yeah, no, okay, that's interesting. And when I look at Berry and even hearing what you're saying, I already know he's a guy who makes a memorable first impression. What was your first impression of Coach Berry?
My first impression, right?
When you met him, not just see him, right? Because we've seen him at Benedict, but when you met him, what was that first impression like?
So when I met Coach Berry, I was kind of surprised, right? Because Coach Berry, I never thought he was a mean dude, right? So I don't want to put that out there, but Coach Berry just has this resting face, it looks like
a little growl, like his face looked like a growl.
It looked like a growl. And then, you go up to him, and I didn't expect him to know who I was, but he said, "Hey, what's up, man? How are you? Thank you for being here." So he was kind of familiar with my work. Then I found out that his wife actually watched the channel, so that's how he was kind of familiar with it. He shook my hand, man. He was all smiles. He was like, "Man, thank you. We appreciate the support. We appreciate what you do." Coach Berry is actually a very cool person to talk to, man. He has a great personality. He got that winning smile when you talk to him, when you see him in the press conference. You know what I'm saying? He has a dope personality. It's just that when it's time to get down to business, he's gonna get down to business. Like that switch flips very quick.
Yeah, I can see that. So he comes over with a lot of guys from Benedict College, and that was a big thing. It feels like, from the outside looking in, which is why I talk to you, because you're not there. I'm on the outside looking in. You're on the inside. It feels like the idea of being doubted for having a good amount of players who came from the D2 ranks is a bit of a rallying cry for the Bulldogs. How accurate is that?
At first, I would say no, but then I think it became that later on, right? Because these, they came from the Division II level, but a lot of these guys knew they could play ball at the FCS level. They knew it. They never even thought about that, right? They never limited themselves because of where they came from. They knew they had the talent. They just needed the opportunity. And you could tell that when we interviewed Caden High, when we interviewed all those guys that were coming in from Benedict. But as we started to get more of them, I think it was when we announced that we got Caden High. That's when you started to hear those comments. Oh, y'all are the South Carolina State Tigers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? The Benedict Bulldogs.
Yeah.
And now they start to hear this because they're on social media. They're gonna hear it. And everybody's saying oh, these guys are a D2 team, and you're hearing other MEAC fan bases say, "Hey, Coach Pough's gone. Y'all ain't gonna be what you was. You got D2 kids now. This is Division I ball. What they gonna do?" And I think they started to hear that, and they channeled it. Right? It didn't start in the beginning, but it came on later on. And you started to see that through their play, right? Because now, when these games are happening and they making plays, they doing a little bit of chirping. You know what I'm saying? They doing a little bit of chirping now. They feeling themselves because they knew they had the talent. They just needed an opportunity to show it. So you start to see that confidence come in, and you started to see some of the guys that Coach Pough brought in support them and kind of speak up to them and say, "Hey, now these guys are good, and we gonna rock with them. We gonna integrate with them. We gonna rock with them, and y'all gonna see just what we made of." And it came to fruition way more quickly than we could have imagined, to be honest with you.
Do you think that part of that cohesion of having the guys who are familiar with Berry, even your quarterback, who technically didn't come from Benedict, he came from Murray State, but that was just a pit stop. But do you feel like having so many guys who already knew the system helped with achieving success as quickly as you have?
Yes, 100%. One of the things, because we kind of thought we worried about that too. Not worried, but we thought about it, right? How's the connection going to be? How's the chemistry going to be? Bringing in these guys, coming with their coach, and then we got our guys over here.
Yeah.
Are y'all? Is there going to be friction? Never was. It never was. Like, they bought into Coach quickly, and these guys, man, when we worried about chemistry, every single person we interviewed, they said, hey, even before Coach Berry, Caden High and E7, they were familiar with each other.
How so? Because they didn't cross paths at Benedict, right? Or did they have a year together?
No, I don't think they crossed paths.
Yeah, because High's a sophomore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they didn't cross paths. So what was the familiarity?
I think they ran by each other in high school or when they were younger at some point. I think I can remember one of them saying, even another quarterback that we brought in, Mason Kidd, he was familiar with some of the Benedict guys. A lot of these guys already had went back from the high school ranks, from the middle school ranks. They knew each other already. So, yeah, the chemistry was just already. We were surprised at how well these guys got along quickly. So I wasn't really worried about them. It was just how are they going to gel with the guys who were brought in from Coach Pough? And to my surprise, it's been great. Like, I think we were, after the past 2 years of not living up to the potential with what we were supposed to be after that Celebration Bowl win, they were ready in a sense. Like, they were ready for more structure. And that's not to say that Coach Pough didn't do a good job, but they were on the older side. Like I said, you just can't really look at things like how you once could have. So they were ready for a little bit more structure. And they got that with the coaching staff, and then they got these talented guys, so they got along with great, and that cohesion just it happened perfectly. It was like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and I actually think that, and this is something I'll explore probably on next week's slate of conversations when looking at the coaching vacancies, but I do believe that you're going to see some schools try to follow the Chennis Berry method. I really genuinely believe you're going to see that. I just have to flush out what that looks like, and I'll have that done by next week. But let's look at the opponent, because you're not facing air, right? It's not a scrimmage here. You're facing Jackson State, and I have a big question about 5. You know who it is, Irv Mulligan. We're going to break him down as we continue with Locked On HBCU. Today's episode is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. And listen, Omaha Steaks is the gift that keeps on giving. If you give me Omaha Steaks for my birthday, for Christmas that's coming up, for any gift, right? Valentine's, I can guarantee you I'm going to need a new one by next week, because that's how delicious that they are. That's how fast that you can run through Omaha Steaks. And right now, they're going to be benefiting you, or give you the benefit of having 50% off at omahasteaks.com. Don't go anywhere. Don't go to your local grocery store. Don't go to the grocery store. Go to omahasteaks.com. And now, because you're listening to me, I'm going to give you a little extra something special, and that's $30 off. Additionally, $30 off when you use the promo code college. So you go to omahasteaks.com, get 50% off on all of their mouth-watering desserts, their amazing steaks, and all of the gifts that you can get. And if you use the promo code college, you get an extra $30 off. 50% plus 30, you're going to be getting it at an extremely low price. Is going to make you have to go back and get some before you can even get your first shipment. Go to omahasteaks.com and take advantage today. As we're wrapping up today's episode of Locked On HBCU, I appreciate you for making this your first listen of the day every day, making it all the way to segment 3, and I thank you 2 times for that. We got Cobi, South Carolina State expert, host of Blitz City, here to break down the Bulldogs ahead of their Celebration Bowl matchup versus Jackson State. And we've looked at the team, we've looked at the coach, but what about the opponent? What about the opponent? And to me, everything Jackson State starts off with 5. And that is Irv Mulligan, the offensive player of the year, the highlight of that team, the engine of the offense. How does Irv Mulligan compare to some of the other top flight running backs that you faced this year? Because you've had some guys that you've had to take on. I namely think of Jamari Taylor. But how does Mulligan compare to Taylor and the other guys from this regular season?
Irv's better. Irv's the best.
He's the guy.
He's the best. And crazy enough, Irv's hometown is 30 minutes from mine. We're from the same place, so I know about him. I know how good he is. I wanted him at South Carolina State. No, Irv is the type of back, man, that just gets stronger as the game goes. He's the type of back that even at that first bit of initial contact, he keeps driving those legs, and he's going to pick up every single inch that he can, and that can be detrimental, man. He delivers punishment, and don't let him get an inch, right? Because then he has the speed. Yeah. So I look at Irv and I say, yeah, this is the best running back that we're going to face this year. Even though I was happy with what we were able to do against Jamari Taylor, even though he started to get off later in that game, but we held him for most of it. I look at Irv and I say, I think we need to do a good job of really just bringing him down as soon as we get hands on him. I think, because to me, he's not a guy you can stop, but you can contain him.
Right. Okay.
And what I've seen us do all year, and I do give us credit for that. We are a much better tackling team than what we used to be the past 2 years. We were atrocious. Now, I don't care if it's Aaron Smith. I don't care if it's Jaden Jones, whoever. If one guy gets to the ball carrier, 4 more guys are coming. Every time. 4 more guys are coming. It's that gang tackling mentality. Making sure you get them on the ground. That needs to be at its peak versus Irv Mulligan. And they have more backs too, but him specifically, if you let him get off, things are going to become a lot harder.
Yeah, that's one of the critical things for me. Yeah. Is stopping Mulligan from the South Carolina State side. So I don't know how you guys are going to do it. You got some talent. You got a great front line. You got a great second line. So we'll see how it goes. What about that wide receiving core? Because your secondary has been not just dominant, but they put points on the board, right? So how are you feeling about your secondary matching up against them?
It's so interesting because Joannis Patillion at Jackson State, big play guy, big body guy. Jackson State, Isaiah Spencer, the way he can run around. It's very interesting. I'm confident though. And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Before we had Gerard Washington, 12 in his pick sixes, we had Jamari Benjamin, who isn't playing with us anymore, but we had him. We thought he was going to be that guy, and he was that guy for a couple of weeks. Then comes Gerard. Now Jamari's gone. We're asking a guy who was a walk-on to take his place, and he's been balling.
Mm-hmm.
We asked Gerard Washington to cover Central's best wide receiver. He did it no problem. We go up against these talented receivers, and we're not giving up big play. Like I haven't, even with with an integral part of that secondary missing, he's out for the season, Dathan Peterson. We're still doing good. Like, we're still doing fine. Yeah, we'll give up a slant here or there. We may give up an intermediate pass here or there, but we bounce back. These guys, and we're not doing this in zone. Like, we're playing man doing this. These are man guys. So I'm confident in what we can do versus Jackson State's receiving room, just because I fear their run game more than I fear their passing game.
They want to lean into that run game too.
Yeah. Yeah, so I fear it way more than I fear the passing game. Even though I love Cobi and Morgan, had the chance to interview him as well. I love the athletes that they got. I'm just more scared of the running game than I am of the pass. And I think I would actually love it if we could take away Irv and put the game in Jacobian's hands and try to see if he can win it for Jackson State. I'd be confident doing that.
What's the biggest challenge? Like, if this goes wrong, the idea of winning is going to be in jeopardy.
It just goes back to Irv. It just goes back to Irv. If this is another story of, which I don't think it will be, but if this is another story of the BX Swag Challenge, where it seems like every single carry he's picking up 5, 6, 7 yards, we ain't gonna have a shot. We're not gonna have a shot. So I think that needs to happen, number one, and then number two, special teams. I know Matt Nola's great. He's a fantastic punter, but I'm more so speaking on that return man they got at Travis Terrell. You know what I'm saying? If we can't contain those two, if we can't do something with those two, it's going to be a long day for us, and winning might not be on the horizon for us if we can't do something with that.
Running and field position. I love it. Cobi, tell them where they can find you. Right, you're gonna be in Atlanta. You're gonna be in Atlanta, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll be there.
I'm already knowing. You probably already there, huh?
No, I'll leave tomorrow after work. I'm gonna drive straight up there.
Okay, cool. I cost you enough time. But tell them where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, you can find me at Cobi 1 on Instagram. You can find me at Cobi or on Twitter, COBIORR. And of course, on YouTube, you can find me on the Blitz City podcast. We got a few more content coming out before the big game, Radio Row. We're gonna do a couple of interviews. I'm gonna hope to speak to Coach Berry in a lot of minutes that we got right before their practice starts. Then they have to close it off. So we still got a few more content that's coming out before this season sadly ends. But yeah, just look out for that.
Well, I appreciate you blessing me, coming on the show, genuinely giving the expert opinion, expert analysis, and really that side that you don't get to see from the inside. So thank you for that. I'm looking forward to seeing everything that y'all do leading up to the Celebration Bowl and what happens after, because we football guys. Football don't stop. So we gonna keep it rolling. But thank you for coming on, and thank everybody else for joining and watching the show. In the meantime, in between time, until the next time we hear each other, family, take care, stay blessed. Peace.